I am so excited to speak with Jessica Spangler today, who is an emergency medicine pharmacist by day and finance obsessed by night. I bet she's a little finance obsessed by day too, though.
I would say so.
I would say so. After being in school for nearly 10 years to get her doctorate, Jessica left with almost 6 figures in student loan debt. Instead of not doing anything about it, Jessica got curious. She now has turned 6 figures in debt into a 6-figure online business. She has grown her investment portfolio to the point of passive income. I am so excited to talk to Jessica today about her financial journey and about how you can recreate it. Jessica, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you. Before we jump into all about your online business, I want to know what financial independence means to you.
So for me, financial independence means that I don't have to work a traditional 9 to 5 in order to pay my bills and live comfortably. This is really about the time that I get back and being able to spend my time doing the things that I love and spending time with my friends and family, and not feeling like I have to be tied in any one job, whether it's a job that I hate. Financial independence for me is living within my means, so that I really don't have to rely on being stuck in a position that doesn't make me feel good.
I love it. What was your life like before learning about financial independence and personal finance?
I don't know. Personal finance is something that I kind of just learned about throughout life. From a really young age, I started to learn about money. My dad actually passed away when I was a kid, and I grew up in a single mom household. And so I learned really super quickly what happens when your main source of income goes away. At the time, my mom didn't have a job. She was a stay-at-home mom, but which is, should be paid exponentially if it were assigned a salary. But I learned really quickly that your source of income, if you only have one source of income, can disappear in a second. And so we learned really quickly the value of money, and that one source of income is only one step away from no source of income. And so from a really young age, it became really important to me to diversify my income into a bunch of different areas so that I never felt like I had to rely on any one job or any one person for money.
You just said something that was so brilliant. One source of income is only one step away from no source of income. I don't want to say I love it because I don't really love no source of income, but I love what you said because it's so true. And I've never heard anybody say it so succinctly and so bluntly. You need more than one source of income because that one source can go away. But what are the chances of all of your sources of income going away at the same time?
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, I can't take credit for that. Somebody important said it. I want to Google it and find out who said it, but it wasn't me who said it first. But it's very, very true.
Okay, well, we'll just quote you here anyway. So let's talk about this 6-figure online business. What is it and how passive active is it?
So it's interesting. When I very first got started with making money on the internet, the first route that I kind of started to go down was selling digital products. So it started off on Etsy selling digital downloads about essentially pharmaceutical concepts. So whether that was breaking down emergency medicine topics, breaking down the difference between the different types of vasopressors, essentially study guides, but not my study guides in school, just study guides for nursing students, pharmacy students, medical students, and selling them like PDF version online to help students study. And that kind of unlocked this brain switch in me. It's like taking the red pill in the Matrix, where once you realize that you can create this thing and put it online and it can continue to sell in the background months, years after you've made it, my brain kind of never worked the same after that. So once I started going down that route, I really started to look into some other avenues. And now ultimately I am on social media, but I can't even say that it was this linear transition of like, oh, okay, I'm going to first start off, selling these digital products, and now I'm going to go on social media and work with advertisers and brands and that kind of thing. It was two totally separate silos of my mind until the pandemic happened. And once the pandemic happened, I was, working in the ER, working in the ICU, talking to patients every single day, and we would be rounding on these patients, and somebody would say something to me like, man, if I get out of here, I have no idea how I'm going to afford this hospital bill, or I have no idea what this medical bill is going to cost. And in the same conversation, a physician or a nurse would be saying to me, I just got an offender bender this morning, and, if I report this to my insurance, is that going to affect my rates, or how's that going to work? And so we were having these conversations about money, and it kind of hit me. Nobody really is taught about this stuff. Not the patient sitting in the hospital bed, not the cardiologist who's making $500,000 a year standing in front of me. Like, nobody is having these conversations. So it was at that moment that I kind of said, all right, I'm going to turn to social media and start talking about some of these things on the internet. And little did I know the income would then follow. But I certainly did not start talking on social media with the intent of, oh yeah, this is going to become a business where I work with brands. It was really just in a moment of insanity in the midst of COVID, with all of my coworkers kind of collectively losing our minds and looking for an outlet to help people.
So I think it's really interesting. You just said the doctors don't know about money. The patients don't know about money. Nobody knows about money. To those of you who are watching this video, if there is something that you know about, it doesn't even have to be money. If there's something that you know about, there are people out there who do not. If you're looking for an interesting way to make money off the knowledge you already have, and a super easy way to make money off the knowledge that you already have, start a side hustle by sharing your information on social media. Because it could be that you like, I have information about this one widget, and I'm the only person who knows about this or cares about it, and maybe it goes nowhere. But maybe you have knowledge that other people are looking for. They find you, and all of a sudden, you blow up. I can't tell you how many content creators I know personally that this happened to. And they're like, I was just answering questions that I knew the answer to that other people didn't.
I would have never anticipated anybody to even tune in. And here we are. So you are now making a lot of money online as a content creator. Are you still working in emergency medicine? I am. I did not quit my day job, and I will say that that's by choice at this point. I never want to lose sight of why I started doing this in the first place. And so for me, keeping my day job has been really important, but it also is another source of income for me. And I actually can pay all of my bills that I need to survive on my emergency pharmacist salary. So anything that I earn that's ancillary, whether that's from digital downloads or from my content creation, is all just additional income that I can put straight towards investments or reinvesting it back into the business, or using it for other purposes other than just paying my bills.
So that brings up an interesting question. What are you investing in? And I'm not looking for hot stock tips. I'm just looking for the types of investments that you are making.
So I invest primarily in index funds that track the S&P 500 or the total stock market, but I do also a little bit of options contracts, so like running the wheel and doing leaps. And then I also will invest in individual stocks, like blue chip stocks that are, big name companies that have been around forever. I definitely don't do any kind of risky day trading or anything like that. I'm very much a long-term investor through and through. And being a scientist, the data is really important to me, and the evidence about what makes the most sense. And I know I'm not going to be the next stock predictor zillionaire, so I would rather just stick to what I know.
Let's talk about budgeting, the B word that everybody loves to talk about. Did budgeting play a role in your financial journey at all?
I got to be honest with you. I'm not the best budgeter. I have a budget. Okay, I try to adhere to the 50-30-20 situation. And I have one. I have an Excel spreadsheet. I don't follow it to the T because for me, especially doing the different things that I do, my income is just not the same every single month. And so I try to keep my expenses relatively standard, but I'm not perfect at budgeting. So, my perspective has always been making sure that I just pay myself first. Like one thing that I absolutely never cut corners on or make sacrifices about is putting that 20% towards my investments and my savings. It's usually, honestly, a bit more than that. But I always make sure I'm hitting that minimum amount of money that I set aside for my investments because I don't want to sacrifice that future wealth. But honestly, like sometimes I travel a little more than I would like to, or I spend a little extra on groceries or whatever it is. I'm only human. I'm not totally perfect, but I try to make up for that in doing a little more work or hopefully bringing in a little more income that month to sort of balance that out if I can.
So I think keeping expenses as standard as possible is key for unpredictable income because then at least you know where you're at and you can help. Like you could pick up another shift, you could pick up a side gig, or you can, when you have more coming in during a certain month and oh, February is my slow time, but December's really busy, you can bank that away knowing that February you're not going to have enough to cover your traditional expenses, but you're going to have more than in December, as opposed to, oh, I've got a windfall in December, I'm going to spend it all. And then in February, you're like, well, I'm going to eat peanut butter and jelly all month because I have nothing for groceries.
For sure.
And the most important wealth building tip I've ever heard is to pay yourself first. So I love that you're doing both of those things. You're kind of just being awesome all the way around.
Oh, geez, Louise, that's a lot to live up to.
Do you think pursuing financial independence changes the fundamental way people perceive work and life?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I think it's one of those things where it's some people work to live and some people live to work. I've always been in the category of the fact that I work to live. Like since forever, I've always considered, okay, for me, a job is a means to an end so that I can live my life outside of work. My mom, on the other hand, kind of like by necessity was thrust into this situation where her life had to be her work. Like she lived to work so that she could keep everything that we had, so that she could take care of her kids. And, that was kind of out of necessity. And in growing up that way and seeing that, my perspective from a very young age was I just want to be able to pay my bills and live a life outside of work so that I can do other things, so that I can travel, so that I can spend time with my family and friends, and that my whole world doesn't have to be consumed by my job. So I absolutely think it changes your perspective and even the things that you're willing to do and how often you're willing to trade your time for money. Like once you realize that your time has value, you can't really justify doing something that you absolutely hate for X number of hours unless there's a payoff that you're calculating in your head, like, okay, this makes sense for me to spend this amount of time. Otherwise, you become a lot more conscious about trading your time in that way.
Now we're going to get into a little bit of discomfort. We feel here at BiggerPockets that people learn the most from mistakes. And rather than let somebody else make the same mistakes you made, we're going to let them learn from the mistakes that you made. So what would you say is the biggest financial mistake that you have made?
I hesitate to say that it's taking out nearly $200,000 in student loans, but it's hard because I don't regret it, but I don't know that I would ever do it again. I thought that the path to financial success was very linear. Like in my brain, it was because neither of my parents had gone to college. My thought process was you go to college, you get the degree, you get the stable job, you take your W-2 paycheck, you work your butt off, and then in 40 years, you retire. I don't know that everything I've learned since then has led me to believe that to be the case, because I've certainly made more money outside of my 9-to-5 career than I have working the job that I spent so many years for. I don't think that college is a mistake, and I certainly don't think that taking out loans is a mistake, because I couldn't have gone to college without student loans. But I think that one of my biggest misunderstandings, I guess, is that you absolutely need a college degree in order to make six figures, and that you absolutely need a college degree to be financially successful.
So I am even older than you. And when I was in high school, that was the option that you had. It's not even an option, because option implies that there are more than one choice. That was the choice that you had. After you graduate high school, then you go to college. Where are you going to college was the question, not are you going to college?
If I could do it all over again, I would have gone to trade school 1,000%. And I don't know. I just really encourage like young people when they're getting out of high school to take a second and stop and think about what they really want to do, and whether or not a college degree is required for you to get there. Because it's really hard to be realistic about your salary expectations when you're 16 and 17, but it's so important to look at those numbers and be like, man, is this going to make sense for me when I have six figures in student loans? And increasingly, it's making less and less sense with the cost of tuition and the payoff, depending on the career.
What's the best financial decision that you have made?
Okay, this is going to be a little corny or a little cheesy, but I feel so strongly about this. I have been driving my paid off Honda Civic for 10 years, okay?
Yes.
I get so many negative looks. I get doctors, everybody looking at me, well, you make this salary, why are you still driving your Honda Civic? I've got this Lexus that I pay $900 a month for. And it's like, okay, I'm saving so much money by not having this car payment that I've been able to essentially invest into. I mean, frankly, taking that $500 a month and investing it for the last 10 years as I have has essentially given me $50,000. So I love my little Honda Civic. She's the little engine that could. And I never fell for the like buy a fancy new car trap with a crazy interest rate. I'm very proud of that one, actually.
That is one of the number one biggest financial mistakes that we have when we ask our guests on the BiggerPockets Money podcast. They say, I bought a new car. What was your biggest financial mistake? I bought a new car when I couldn't afford it. And now you could probably easily afford it, but why? It's clearly not something that means anything to you. And what we hear over and over again in the personal finance space is spend on things that matter and don't worry about things that don't matter. I think Ramit Sethi drives a like 25-year-old Honda something, and he's like, I don't care. I don't care about cars, so I don't spend any money on it. But I spend a lot of money on other things that matter to me.
Totally. And I think that's the key, right? Is like prioritizing the things that we value. Like for me, it's not cars. I'm happy to drive my paid off Honda Civic, but it's got a little dent in the side. You know what? That's fine with me. But yeah, if for somebody else, it could be something else, and they might really care about their car. And I think that's fine. Like personal finance is personal, but the car is not where my money is going.
And being an online content creator, what is the most surprising thing that you have learned from your audience?
Nobody knows about money. Everybody's just figuring it out. It's not something that we're really taught in school. So I'm not shocked, but I was surprised at the number of people that had opened a Roth IRA, put the money in there, and then hadn't invested it in anything. So I didn't realize how often that was actually happening. So getting through the 99% of the first chunk, like opening the account, putting the money in there, having the Roth IRA, and then looking at the account 5 years later and realizing I actually did not invest this in anything. It's just been sitting there. I knew that it was happening. I didn't know it was happening to the degree that it was happening. Like it was only when I started receiving thousands of comments, oh my gosh, I did this exact thing. I just figured it out. Thank you for letting me know, that I really realized, okay, this is happening way more often than I thought.
Wow. Yeah, I know a couple of people who have done that. That's a very interesting tip I hope you've done a whole video or video series on that where you tell people, hey, this is how you check to see where your money is. And this is how, if you're not checking, you need to be checking. Holy cow. I hurt from even hearing that.
I know. It's time you can't get back, but it's never too late to start. That's the thing. At least the money's in there because every year, you can only put in this max amount. So at least the money got in there.
Yes.
We just got to start investing it.
Take it out of cash and put it into an actual investment.
Absolutely.
And Jessica, what advice would you give someone just starting out on their financial independence journey?
I think, like we said, the first part of figuring out where you want to be financially is deciding what it is that you value. So I think if you want to live a life of financial independence, whatever that means for you, you first have to figure out what you actually care about spending money on. So if that's creating a budget, if that's the best way that it works for you, then that's a great place to start. But actually sitting down and saying, okay, do I want to work a 9-to-5 forever? Would it be possible for me to step down to part-time and do something else that I really love on the side? Do I want more time? Do I want more money? What is the piece of financial independence that you value? Because until you really identify why you want to make more money, I don't know that the money matters to its full extent. Like making more money, there's this, the saying like money isn't everything or money doesn't buy happiness. But there have been so many studies to show that money does buy happiness. It makes your life easier. You can afford healthcare. You can afford vacations. You can afford to take time off. So money is great. And I don't think anybody needs to be like ashamed about wanting to make more money, but identifying your why and your value of, is that because you want to have more time off and spend time with your family? Figuring that out, I think, is a really great first step.
Thank you so much for your time today, Jessica Spangler. This was a lot of fun and it's always good to chat with you. Where can our audience find you online?
You can find me on just about any platform at @ecomjess, and you can also check out my brand new book called Invest Like a Girl coming out in March.
Oh, and is that available? Where is that available?
That's available anywhere you can buy books.
If you like this video, please click the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more videos with inspiring fire stories just like Jessica's. This is Mindy Jensen signing off.